In the heyday of the Bongjong gang, headed by the chairman of the Umbrella, he already owns two powerful arms, Lee Jun and Gu Bongsan, because he wanted to extend his strength to Japan. So Chairman O had a desire to control the port of Busan. He was going to send his two powerful arms to take Busan, but he couldn't make it. The Busan gang was in no hurry to preemptively strike first. All the members of the Bongjong gang tried their best to hold out but were overwhelmed in numbers. I thought that the gang would collapse soon. Suddenly, Jijun appears, and he single-handedly handles all the people of the Busan gang. No matter who the opponent is, strange or how many there are, it doesn't matter to Jijun. When he finished handling the Busan bandage, Jijun nodded to his big singer Lee Jun. So thanks to Jijun, the Bongjong gang succeeded in taking Busan. Since then, the power of Lee Jun and Lee Bongsan in the eyes of the chairman of the Umbrella has also risen like a kite in the wind. Some people rumored that the chairman of the Umbrella would hand over his corporation to the two of them to manage. Instead of handing it over to his son, the president's son heard this rumor and his heart burned like fire. That day, there was a man who was going to assassinate Lee Jun and Gu Bongsan. But the assassin had to kneel in front of the two people he was going to kill. He immediately gave evidence that it was the son of the chairman of the Umbrella who sent him to carry out this assassination. Immediately afterwards, when the name of the son of the president was in a bar, then a person with a nose sign rushed in and gave a series of blows to the heart. When he found out that his son had been assassinated, Chairman Wu immediately ordered Lee Jun and Gu Bongsan's men to come here immediately. After that, the car carrying Gu Bongsan was also blocked by Chairman U's men in both directions. At this time, when the mysterious person called Lee Jun to report to Lee Jun that he had killed Chairman O's son on his own, then the Umbrella president's junior hand also appeared. When she was caught dazzling, Gu Bongsan immediately confirmed that Jun did it, and she didn't know anything. Outside, Jijun had wiped out the juniors of the chairman, and facing the older man that Jijun respects very much. When this man asked if he was not the one who killed the son of the chairman of the Umbrella, then Jijun immediately said that it was important. Then the two also fisted each other. After that, Jijun also walked into Chairman O's room and told his elder brother Lee Jun, "I'm sorry I'm late," and then cut the glare for him. Since then, Lee Jun and Gu Bongsan have also overthrown Chairman O, and take over everything that once belonged to the cell president. And the person who had dealt with Chairman Wu's son the night before was Jijun's mobile brother. 11 years later, the two gangs Jun and Bongsan have both become powerful. It had been a long time since the two gang bosses had the opportunity to sit down together. Chairman Gu asked Chairman Lee to come to see him to ask him to do something for him. The unruly son of the chairman of Gugu is looking for foreign gypsies. Let them deal with the famous people in the company, simply because they are competing in business. If Chairman Gu takes matters into his own hands, it will cause bad rumors. So he wanted to ask Chairman Lee to deal with it for him. At first, Chairman Lee refused because he did not want to get involved in other people's family matters. But when the chairman gave the condition that he would help with the land, Chairman Lee immediately agreed and then handed over the task to Jisuk, his powerful right arm. Jisuk wondered why he didn't hand it over to the manager to handle it, and Chairman Lee immediately said, "This case is only for his good, and it will be very useful to run the company in the future." So Jisuk had no choice but to obey. His junior Hebam went to investigate the Gu chairman's son. That son's scandal in the Bongsan group is very bad, so much so that he had to hire foreigners to handle his affairs. After listening, Jisuk just pondered and didn't say anything more. After that, he and his juniors went to the Dexo Hotel to meet Junmo, then set a deadline of 3 days for the foreigner to fly home. Junmo then asks Jisuk what is he doing here? Why are the people of the Joun group so different? So Jisuk calmly responded to Chairman Gu for personally asking Chairman Lee. He was a good calculating man but was willing to suffer for his son. If you haven't made a soul, please don't do it. Then it would be better for you. Junmo began to show an overbearing attitude and recalled the old story. It even tells about the sins of Jisuk's brother. Then he caught his limp due to the amputation of his leg tendons. Jisuk comes over and slaps Junmo in the face. The juniors who were about to rush in were all knocked down by the fire. As for the foreigner, he just sat there watching a good play. Before leaving, Jisuk looked at Junmo with contempt and said, "It's you who are the problem," which makes Junmo angry and then goes crazy. "You've crossed the line." After finishing work, Jisuk stops by the running area run by his brother. Jisuk took the coat and gave it to his younger brother to grow in to keep out the cold. After that, the two brothers sat in front of the fire and ran to confide. Even though they haven't seen each other for 6 years, Jisuk is still very frugal. Jisuk says that Chairman Lee wants you to take over the Joun group, but I was wondering if I should quit everything and go back here to do business with him. Seeing his brother looking at me silently and not answering, Jisuk also understood himself, so he got up and said goodbye and left. Wait until his younger brother gets in the car and sit down, and then Jisuk comes to knock on the car window. Then he asked him if there was anything wrong lately. Jisuk could only laugh and answer. Until now he was willing to ask a second question. After a while, Jisuk returned to the gallery to work, seeing the stairs down to the parking lot flashing. So he immediately went down to check the parking lot. Then he asked the man who was hiding to come forward, but it turned out to be just a wild cat. Jisuk then feeds the stray cat, and at this time, a man who covers his face attacks from behind with a knife. But that guy couldn't fight Jisuk back, so he just gave a few warnings and chased the bastard away. However, that guy still refused to wake up, but also called his accomplices. Jisuk just sighed and put the glasses in his pocket. Then rushed to kill all the young people in one battle. The leader still rushed to attack Jisuk but was easily turned upside down by him. Without holding back and holding the knife close to the warning eye, Jisuk has spared a life and threw the knife aside. But that guy still pulled out a spare knife and rushed to stab him in the back. Jisuk immediately grabbed the jumper's head and gave a punch to the face and collapsed into a crack. The accomplices also realized that they had touched the keep, so they quickly pulled each other and ran away without waiting for anyone. Jisuk pulled out a knife from the wound and walked to the door, even though he knew there was another man waiting for him behind that door. But he still decided to open the door, and the assassin hiding inside immediately attacked Jisuk with a small knife. He thrust the knife into Jisuk's palm. So he immediately pushed the bastard away and used his armband to stop the bleeding. Jisuk continues to rush into battle and is stabbed in the wrist by the guy's knife. As soon as he was distracted, he stabbed the knife into Jisuk's neck. Because of this attack, Jisuk couldn't carry his hand in time. The other assassin also pulled out a knife and pulled down his face covering and said, "Then your knife also understands that if you pull out the knife, you will pile it right away. Wait until everything is over." The junk sat outside the car and waited until now before he dared to go in to check. As soon as he saw that Jisuk had been loaded in the parking lot, he immediately called the police to come. The next day, Jisuk was driving to the running area when he received a phone call with bad news. At this time, Jisuk's funeral was quickly organized by the Jew group. President Gu and his son were also present to express their condolences, while the chairman respectfully knelt down to see him off. Then his son knelt down again with a playful attitude. Then he pretended to express his condolences to he. Manager Choi was standing outside the funeral venue when he saw Jun-suk coming out. So he asked, "Do you know anything about Jisuk? Isn't this your doing?" Jun-suk immediately corrected himself to be innocent. Moreover, Jisuk is his best friend, so that doesn't happen at all. I heard the police say that it was done by the players, but it had nothing to do with the Santa ball. Then Manager Choi laughed sarcastically and said, "You used to have a precedent for biting your friend." His 3 heads were on the side of the Juwoo group, but now they were jumping over Bongsan's side. Looking at this aspect, it was true that he was hiding something. While talking, the manager saw Chairman Lee's son appear. He immediately chases after him to prevent Jaeim's son from visiting the funeral, because Chairman Lee didn't want his children to get involved in these things. At this point, Jijuan appears, so Manager Choi immediately ignores Jaeim's son. He walked straight to Jijuan and bowed respectfully to him and the juniors. When Jijuan asks where his brother's body is, Manager Choi immediately led him to see Jisuk's body. Then he said that this was caused by the games. Meanwhile, Chairman Lee and Chairman Ju are drinking together. Chairman Ju thinks that this is a good opportunity for Jaeim's son to take over Juwoo, but Chairman Lee immediately refused, saying that Jisuk didn't deserve to be like that. As soon as he spoke, Jijuan walked to the end of the bow and greeted the 2 bunches and said, "You told me to live as I did, but I couldn't do that today, so let me apologize." The 2 men nodded and didn't dare to blame because today was also Jisuk's funeral. Jijuan continued, "Remember the promise you made 11 years ago?" Chairman Ju remembers Jijuan's promise not to appear again, and Chairman Lee remembers his promise to protect Jisuk. Jijuan said, "I kept my promise, but you didn't. Is there anything else I should know about Jisuk's qualities?" Seeing that both of them were silent and didn't say anything, Jijun also understood that there was none. He immediately said goodbye at the end of his head and then turned his back and left. Chairman Lee hurriedly got up and tried to chase after him, but he couldn't catch up. As soon as Jijun gets out to the car, Haibum rushes over. Then he respectfully ends his salute and introduces himself as Jisix Jr. Seeing the ice monk on his hand, Jijun only gave a few pats of encouragement. Haibum immediately promises to take care of Jisix's aftermath. Jijun was silent and didn't respond, but just got into the car. He went to his brother's apartment and found handbooks on running Bran. Next to it is a photo taken by the whole fraternity together in the past. Jijun then finds the box with his name on it. He opened it and saw that it was a jacket that his brother was going to give him for his birthday. Jijun tried to suppress the pain in his heart and bandaged his disabled leg. He then leaves Jisix's apartment without bringing the gift with him. The next day, he went to the police station because he wanted to meet the suspect, but because it was a felony. Therefore, the inspector there could not allow the victim's family to meet the suspect. Jijun uses threats to Sukjun and mentions that he wasn't afraid of getting his hands on the stains back then. Thanks to this, Jijun is allowed to meet the leader of the skydiving. When the guy found out that Jijun was Jisix's brother, Lin bowed his head and pretended to apologize sincerely. Then he couldn't help but laugh and said, "You want me to apologize to you like that? Want to know why I killed him? He looks at me the way you look at me right now." Jijun still said calmly, "He'll go to you one by one and follow you that day." Then came your family members, and at this time the lightning bolt said bluntly, "Then when you find my old grandparents, remember to kill Gua, because they abandoned me and my brother when I was a child." Jijun still kept a calm attitude and replied, "Well, it turns out that you have a younger brother." He opened the door and left, leaving the man with an evil face. That night, Jijun follows his brother's name to a restaurant. Wait for him to enter the cave and then the thunderbolts will pull in. Jijun said bluntly, "It's not you guys who lured me here, but I lured you there. Now let's talk about who sent you to do it." The lead dancer still maintains the attitude of not looking at anyone at all, deliberately provocative to pull Jijun's focus for his accomplices to sneak in. But these afternoons are too immature, so it's easy to get caught by Jijun. Whoever rushes in, he treats them beautifully. Seeing this, the people ran away, only waiting for the three of them. At this time, they were afraid to beg for forgiveness, but it was too late. The younger brother of the lead dancer had already hidden in a corner to test the Buddha. But in the end, Jijun still doesn't spare anyone. Meanwhile, at the funeral, Chairman Lee was sitting and thinking when he saw Zhangzhou's face. So I immediately went to his car to discuss private matters. He asks Zhangzhou if there's anything he needs to know about Jisix's nature, because today his brother showed up and asked that strange question. So Chairman Lee wanted Zhangzhou to investigate, to see if Jisix's essence is hidden behind it. At the same time, prosecutors at the police station are meeting about Jisix's case. There has been a similar incident before. At that time, the street bomb gang led by Chairman O was split in two. It was also at this time that the Jugan and Bangsan gangs were formed. Chairman O was overthrown by the two juniors I trusted the most, Chairman Lee and Chairman O. And the reason for this overthrow is the quality of the president's son O. This incident is similar to Jisix's case that just happened. This substance could lead to another war. While some people think this is a myth, the deputy prosecutor said that this was not a joke. Because in the past, there were many inspectors and prosecutors who were fired. He wants prosecutors to investigate more deeply into Jisix's nature. Don't take the police report as a beer forever. After that, the deputy prosecutor asked to end the meeting, then asked Jiam-sun to stay and talk to me privately. The deputy prosecutor said while eating, he tried to enter the special case room, but he was considered an outsider. Even when he came home, he was treated as an invisible person. Well, let's put it bluntly like this: if you stay here, you won't be able to advance. And returning to the Zhugun group, he was not welcome. So he'll give you a chance to choose a side and advance. I want you to handle Jisix's case. At the same time, Jijun brings a recording of the leader dancer's younger brother to threaten him. That's how much that kid gave up and revealed everything. There is a room called the graveyard. There they hired dusty guys like me to do dirty missions. This time a huge mission has been launched. I guess I don't know anything. People tell me where I go and kill whomever I want. I just do it. The bastards in that locker room even hired a lawyer for me. If you don't believe it, go and ask yourself. I will call her here for you. After that, the boy called the lawyer to listen to her, and jumped for a while to take testimony. Before the lawyer left, he didn't forget to put his middle finger up in a friendly way. She left the police station and called the leader to tell her that it had been resolved. As soon as she got into the car to sit down, Zizan also got into the car and sat in the seat next to her. When she learned that Zizan was a family member of the victim, Lean thought he came here to spend her money. But when Zizan asked if she knew anything about the graveyard room, the lawyer quickly explained to him, "This graveyard room is like a food delivery app. Instead of connecting the store with the delivery person, it connects the customer with the replacement. For example, person A commits a crime but does not want to go to prison. Then there will be a person B who is willing to take the blame if he is paid. A is the bridge and B is the supply. The graveyard is the place that connects the two sides. Demand is always a lot, so supply is the problem. The graveyard room is full of young people who have not gone to military service. When they go to prison, they can both avoid military service and have money. After the preliminary part is finished, they will bring in experts like me to finish it. That's all I knew. I only occasionally give legal advice to that company. If you don't believe it, just go to that company and ask." So Ji-Jun received the business card of the Anklin company from the lawyer. And the CEO of that company is none other than his old friend Sungwon. Meanwhile, Sungwon is excited because of the new fortune-telling. She said that he would fly like a kite in the wind. There is even salt to do business abroad. After he finished telling, he immediately instructed his juniors to temporarily close the door of the room, just in case the police or gang members sniff it out. At the same time, Ji-Jun went to Anklin Company to find Sungwon. Then the employees there did not know heaven and earth and rushed into a fight. In just a moment, he had finished dealing with all the things. Then she used the receptionist's phone to call Sungwon to inform her that she was at the waiting company. After listening to the phone, Sungwon couldn't help but be afraid. Then he turned to ask how many juniors at the company were left, while Ji-Jun was sitting up straight and waiting. Then the rest of Sungwon's juniors at the company were about to attack. But at the crucial moment, the phone of the head rang. So he was quickly treated beautifully by Ji-Jun. And the rest of the guys also received the same ending a while after Sungwon arrived at the company. Looking at the chaotic scene, he also understood the problem himself. Sungwon showed a happy attitude of waiting for Ji-Jun as if nothing had happened. But when Ji-Jun looked up, Sungwon immediately said, "You look at me as if I have a position of authority. But it's no different from when he was in the industry. They told me to clean up and then wait for one case and the other, then I followed. I only follow the instructions of my superiors. Actually, I didn't know anything at first, but now I know what happens when I take the money. If I had known in the first place, I wouldn't have done it. Please think about it thoroughly. If you want a Jisuk, I have already sent a specialist. But who would send those guys to do anything? I didn't expect Ji-Suk to be real." Ji-Jun still calmly asked who had instructed him, and then picked up a glass of blood-stained water to drink. Mr. Sungwon continued to talk but refused to reveal. So Ji-Jun had to hit him once, causing him to spit blood on the glass door. Only then did Sungwon reveal that the director, Gu-Jun, bought Chairman Gus' son. He was the one who ordered the assassination. After getting the information that he wanted Ji-Jun to leave, Chairman Lee also learned that Chairman Gus' son was behind the assassination. But before taking action, he will go to the chairman of the Gu first to negotiate. At the same time, Jun-Suk goes to see Sungwon to ask about what happened yesterday. When he found out, Sungwon testified that Chairman Gus' son gave the order. He was so angry that he wanted to flatten the head of this coward. But there was nothing he could do but turn his back and leave. Meanwhile, Chairman Lee made an appointment for Chairman Gu to talk in a familiar place. Chairman Lee reminded about the rule that the two got married when the chairman was unqualified. Whoever is guilty of the other party will pay the price. Anyone who is guilty has to pay with his own life. Chairman Gu asked Chairman Lee to get straight to the point, so he immediately said, even if the culprit was his son, there was no exception. Chairman Gu angrily slammed Lee wine on the table. But Chairman Lee continued to say, "Do you know what I was thinking when I heard about Ji-Suk's qualities? I had hoped that it was just a name, not a chase. It was his son who hired soldiers to kill Ji-Suk. That's why I went through Ji-Jun to smash the whole clean company. Now do you understand why I mentioned the rule?" Chairman Gu immediately replied, "I understand, but I hope you haven't forgotten who has that rule. If 11 years ago Ji-Jun hadn't made a fuss, then I don't need that bad rule. What you mention about my son, whether it's true or not, is a problem. Why do you dare to threaten my child's friend? If you touch it, Do you think he'll sit still? Chairman Lee continued to remind Chairman Gu of Ji-jun. This is no longer a simple story. If he hadn't acted sooner, it would have gone even further. At this time, Ji-jun came in from the outside. This made both of them dodge and dare not look directly at their faces. Ji-jun takes a seat. Then he poured himself the wine with the Chairman Gus glass and said, "I'll ask one last time. Does Chairman Gu have anything to do with my brother's qualities? And will both of you abide by the rules?" The two bosses both wanted Ji-jun to stand outside and watch, and they will solve and handle everything themselves. But Ji-jun refused and continued. "I already knew who was behind it. Chairman Gu has nothing to do with it, right? I believe not, so please don't do anything. Just sit and watch with your arms crossed." Withdrawing his words, Ji-jun poured wine to invite Chairman Gu, and then got up and left. At this time, Chairman Gu was afraid and begged Chairman Lee to help. "Let me make up for what my son did. Just tell me what you want." He couldn't sit still like that and watch Ji-jun destroy everything. Seeing that Chairman Lee didn't want to help, he threw the wine glass against the wall and said, "If my son dies, this relationship will also end." "Remember what I said," Chairman Lee calmly replied. "This will be the last time we sit and drink together." After saying that, he got up and was about to leave, but Chairman Gu made an offer. "Just take the hotel. Because even if you build now, you won't live until the construction is finished. My Dexo Hotel is always for you." That night, Chairman Gu returned to the company to execute his son. While hitting him, I asked if Ji-suk's case was done by you. When he heard Jun-moo admit that it was his doing, Chairman Gu was even more angry and hit a few more shots and then asked why. Then Jun-moo immediately said that it was because that bastard insulted me in front of my juniors. Chairman Gu helplessly said that that's all, right? Is it the first time someone has humiliated you? You've been like this all your life, so what's the matter with you again?
Jun-moo replied warmly.
Even my father makes me look like a useless guy, so I have to try to prove myself. The chairman of the Heartbroken Taste at the end of the pulse said, "Why do you have to try to prove what you are doing when you are my father's son? Don't you understand why Dad is so angry with you? If you don't want to be piled under Ji-jun's hands, then don't do anything without asking your father first." At the same time, Ji-jun went to the practice area to meet his brother Bun-ho again. He wanted to ask Bun-ho to help him with a flowing ball. Bun-ho looked at Ji-jun's legs and then got up to look for something. While looking for him, he said it's okay, but it will take a long time to do it. So let's use this for the time being. Withdrawing the words, he handed the leg-fixing mold for Ji-jun to wear. Meanwhile, Manager Choi advised Chairman Lee, "You shouldn't sit idly by like that and ignore Ji-suk's case. If you do that, it will be very difficult for the gang members to accept." But Chairman Lee has made up his mind and does not want to change. He also does not want to confront the Bongsan group. Before he had time to say sorry, Manager Choi was kicked out by Chairman Lee, and Ji-Sun was sitting eavesdropping on the other side of the room. After listening, he silently observed the manager playing through the window. Manager Choi is standing outside when Hae-bum comes over and says he wants to meet the president. When asked why he wanted to meet, Hae-bum immediately said he also knew that Ji-suk was executed right after he went to see Jun-mo. "I also understand that I have to wait until the funeral is over. But it's time for the president to do something." When he heard Manager Choi say that the chairman knew who the culprit was and decided to sit still, then Hae-bum said straight, so he didn't want to do anything and he accepted it. "I know where I am." But he must be very happy because he is about to be replaced by Ji-suk. Manager Choi immediately slapped Hae-bum in the face repeatedly to correct it. Ji-sun appeared from where and then spoke up to stop. So the manager doesn't play anymore. Hae-bum also voluntarily bowed his head and left. Manager Choi immediately turned to Ji-sun and said to Ji-sun, "This is the company's business that has nothing to do with you." Ji-hum nodded and said, "What do you think? Do you really think you will lose more?" Without waiting for Manager Choi to respond, Ji-sun just turned her back and left. Meanwhile, Ji-jun has just returned to his brother's apartment when he meets Hae-bum, who is standing ready. Ji-jun advises Hae-bum to stand outside and not interfere, and listen to the company's decision. Hae-bum immediately replied, "Someone advised me the same thing. But the chairman made such a decision, which made me so. This is not my own business, but mine anymore." So Hae-bum went to see the lawyer to grope into the lair of the palace chat room. Then enlisted their help to find out where Jun-mo was. Thanks to the chat room's post, Everyone is teaching and hunting for Jun Mo. In just a moment, the bastard's whereabouts were found. And Ji Jun also managed to go to the Dexo Hotel where Jun Mo was staying. Meanwhile, the chairman of the GU looked to the old level who had been active in the Gypsy Circle to suggest that he handle Ji Jun. But because he had witnessed the event 11 years ago, so he didn't dare to confront that scary person either. After rejecting the offer, he also knocked on the car window and asked Chairman Gu, "Does the boss really believe that Ji Jun was killed by those children? Does the boss really think it's reasonable?" After asking, he quickly left. Waiting for the strange line to get on the car, the chairman immediately told, "Go to the hotel and take Jun Mo to the hidden area in Jiangbong, and let our people dig on the side of the police. I want to know who was the first person to discover Ji Jun and be in charge of investigating the case. We have to see if it is really caused by those children." After a while, Jun Su asked Jun Mo to follow him to his hiding place, because Ji Jun is already hunting for the kill. But the villain still stubbornly refused to go, and he didn't seem to be afraid of Ji Jun. At this time, the current of cancer also pulls the wires of the sound system. Then he walked over to stand opposite Jun Mo and said that I would personally take him to Jiangbong. The chairman asked me and told me that if I had to beat him once, just do it. Jun Mo angrily scolded loudly without knowing that Ji Jun was in the hall. He easily knocked out the bodyguard standing guard at the elevator and then went up to the floor where Jun Mo was, and knocked out several more bodyguards along the way. Jun was frightened and rushed over to hug Ji Jun to stop him. People have already begged Jun, but Jun Mo is still complacent, he still walks well. So Ji Jun immediately gave him a punch in the stomach to wake up. Then he continued to be squeezed by the neck and pressed against the nearby third counter. Dong Kyung immediately rushed to kick Ji Jun to push him away. The two of them kept fighting each other while Jun dragged Jun Mo away, being beaten for those who should take off their vests and beat them aggressively. But in the end, he was still overwhelmed by Ji Jun's power and knocked unconscious. At this time, Jun Suc was driving Jun Mo away when Hebung's car had just arrived, so he immediately got out of the car. Then he hurriedly chased Jun's car and asked to stop the car, but to no avail. Chairman Gu called anxiously to ask about the situation after knowing that the villain was still safe. Then he breathed a sigh of relief, and then led the Jun to tighten security. "Definitely don't let anyone know that Jun Mo is where you are hiding." Just like that, Jun drove quickly to the place where he was hiding in the night. At the same time, the soldiers were destroying all the documents and collecting all the money in the settlement to escape. But when he saw Ji Jun appear, he immediately went down and lied that he had just returned from a business trip. When he heard Ji Jun ask if he knew where Jun Mo was, Sung Jun replied hesitantly, "He must have been hiding very well, and he couldn't find the graveyard." Ji Jun put that word in his hand and coldly asked, "Hurry up and find it. It'll give you a day." Leaving the army helpless, they didn't know what to do but obey. Meanwhile, Manager Choi slowly recalled Geum Sun's implicit words, "So I used a detector to find the eavesdropping device in the president's office." Seeing that there was nothing, he immediately opened the music record in the room and then went into Geum Sun's room to check. As expected, the speaker rig in the room Geum Sun works, and when you put your hand on the listening hand to listen to it, it was true that he could hear the music in the chairman's office. So Manager Choi went to the prosecutor's office and met Geum Sun and asked, "Why did you reveal the eavesdropping to me?" Geum Sun replied, "I'm a prosecutor while my father is a gang member. I know prosecutors and gangsters aren't too different. They both put organization above the individual. Do you think ignoring Ji Suk's qualities is best for the group? I understand my father because if Ji Suk is killed, war will break out." Of course, he was very afraid that everything he had built would collapse at the same time. But I saw this as an opportunity to bring down the Bongsan group. And in order for the Dugun Corporation to take over everything, the next day, Chun Suk was calling his wife at home. Then Jun Mo shouted loudly to call him in to talk. Jun Mo wanted to know what kind of person Ji Jun was, so Chun Suk immediately recounted everything that happened 11 years ago. After the story, he said that after that incident they set a rule to keep the peace. Whoever wins will pay the price, and Ji Jun is the first victim of that rule. He helped them take over everything, but it was also the root of it all. However, Ji Jun still made a great achievement, so he only had his leg tendons amputated. Or it was simply that both presidents were afraid of Ji Jun. After hearing this, Jun Mo felt even more confused. There is no reason for two gang members to be afraid of such an unstable man. Meanwhile, He-bum apologizes to Ji-jun for not stopping Jun-mo's car yesterday. As for Bun-ho, he advised Ji-jun not to pursue this anymore. It is not simply revenge but confrontation with the whole Bongsan group. Bun-ho planned to go to Chairman Lee to ask him for help. He-bum immediately spoke up. The chairman had already decided to keep silent about this. It should prove that Ji-suk is nothing important in his eyes. At the same time, Jun-mo was in a rage and smashed the place where he was hiding in order to get out. Jun-suk told the bodyguard to stay and guard tightly, and he will drive back to Seoul. After a while, Jun-mo immediately called the foreigners to suggest that they confront Ji-jun. After that, he called Jun-suk and said, "The problem is that Ji-jun is still alive. If he died, there was no need to worry at all. I decided to deal with him. I want you to go to Ji-jun and lure him into my trap. I heard that your daughter is just a toddler. Ji-jun is more important than his family. If you want to save the life of your family, you have to kill him." Chairman Gu was looking through Ji-suk's case file, and he learned that the person who found the body and took charge of the case was Suk-jun. That night, Jun-suk made an appointment with Ji-jun to meet him and said, "Or do you stop because that Jun-mo will do it to the end? The opponent is not only him but also the whole Bangsa group. Looking back, the time when I was still following you was the most beautiful time of this square. At least at that time, people were still self-inflicted." Ji-jun turned to ask Jun-suk what he was going to do here. Then he immediately handed the paper sample to Ji-jun and replied, "Take it away. This is where Jun-mo is hiding. I can't run away forever. I'm about to leave the company, so I don't need to worry about you." Ji-jun didn't say anything, but gripped the paper in his hand and left. Jun-suk drove away only to apologize to Ji-jun. He helplessly looked at the photo of the broken child on the phone, which was even more awkward. Ji-jun went to the address on the piece of paper and stood in front of the elevator. Then look at the notice board that is being restored from the 10th floor to the 13th floor. He went up to the floor that was being restored and searched around. But as soon as he opened the door of the room to take a look, two big guys with knives rushed over. Ji-jun hurriedly used the electric plate in the room as a curtain. Then he took a nearby stone and hit the bride's head. Just like that, he dodged the knife lines, weighed both big guys at the same time, waiting for the two of them to collapse. Then Ji-jun immediately took out a bundle to cover his face with a gray robe. The long-haired bride took a knife to save his comrades. But who would have expected to backfire and kill the core brother himself? He was scared and tried to go out to run away. But in the end, Ji-jun used a knife to give him a blow of fresh antiquities. Jun-mo was anxiously waiting when he received a phone call. He picked up the phone and asked if he had finished handling everything. Then Ji-jun on the other end of the line immediately said, "You just wait because I'm about to find you." At the same time, Chairman Gu made an appointment to meet Zhongzhou at the cafe to talk about Ji-suk's story. Zhongzhou thinks that this is very simple to solve. It only takes one person to take responsibility for breaking the principle. Chairman Gu immediately said, 11 years ago, you asked Chairman Lee and I to make a separate rule for living together. But now, if my son is skilled, he will not be able to live together. I met with Chairman Lee to tell him so the Duan side will also stand out. Now there is only one problem, which is Ji-jun. It's done, so I want to ask you for help. You want the parties to live together in peace the most. So how to see it, just do it. Unless he wants to see the bloodshed like he did 11 years ago. Chairman Gu immediately got up and left. And Zhongzhou just said frankly which father is the child. After receiving a call from Ji-jun, Jun-mo immediately called the others to escape from his hiding place. At this time, the bodyguards were guarding outside when Izu and Hung Jin drove over. In just a moment, the two of them finished dealing with the bodyguards and went inside. When he heard Jun-mo's suggestion, he asked him to execute a certain chili pepper. Then Izu was complacent and thought that it was too easy. He was even afraid that he would accidentally kill someone if he was too aggressive. Jun-mo was even happier when he heard that, because he only hoped that Ji-jun would die. After that, they quickly left the uncle's hiding place. As soon as he heard the news, Jun-suk immediately went back and scolded the bodyguards, then ordered the whole group to run to find Jun-mo's whereabouts. At this time, Jun-mo called, so Jun-suk had to pretend to be sweet, to ask where this revenge guy is going. At the same time, Ji-jun was in the clinic to treat his wounds. The doctor also knows what happened to Ji-suk. He wanted to advise Ji-jun very much, but he knew that even if he stopped now, he couldn't. What the doctor can do now is to bandage the wound, so that Ji-jun can continue to take revenge. After the bandage was finished, Ji-jun sat down and thought. At this time, Bun-ho called to advise Ji-jun to stop after handling Jun-mo. As for Ji-suk's matter, let him handle it, because tomorrow Bun-ho will go to see Chairman Lee to persuade him. As soon as he mentioned that reporter, he turned around and saw him waiting. Bun-ho immediately hung up the phone and said, "It turned out that he was the son of Chairman Wu. I heard that he was exactly the same as Chairman Wu when he was young. I don't feel the same at all. Besides me, there are many people who want you to be very good so you can go home." Passive in his narcissism, Jun-mo immediately picked up the flowing ball stick and hit Bun-kof's head. Jun-suk panicked and rushed to stop Jun-mo and pushed him aside. Jun-mo laughed and hugged Jun-suk's face and said, "Why did you come so early this time? Did you run over because you were worried about me or because you were worried about this friend of Ji-jun's?" Jun-suk couldn't hold back anymore and squeezed Jun-mo's neck and said, "I told you not to get involved in this, bastard. If you want to hear it, I'll tell you directly. You're just a useless thing that can't do anything to your soul. Both Ji-suk and Bun-ho were killed by you, bastard." Hung Jin immediately pushed Jun-suk aside to stop him. Jun-mo was strangled again, so he was even more angry. He took the flowing ball stick and walked towards Jun-suk. Then swing the stick and hit him repeatedly on the head to get angry. Even In-suk couldn't stand it, so he had to stop him from fighting anymore. Jun-mo pointed to In-suk's face and said, "If you have done it, you have to make it standard." At this time, Ji-jun called again. So Jun-mo immediately picked up his phone and said, "Your friends are all because of you. If you are going to do it, you have to do it to the standard. They'll send you the address, so come here right away." After a while, Ji-jun went to the glossy area to look at the scene left by Jun-mo himself. He could only sigh to stay calm. Then he took away the flowing ball stick and left it in the office. Then called Sung-won to come and dispose of the body. When Sung-won came, he could only shake his head in disgust and couldn't say anything. At the same time, Suk-jun was arrested by Chairman Gus Men. Waiting to take off his head, Chairman Gu immediately said, "Thanks to you, it's been a long time since I had the opportunity to come back here. If you don't want to end up like those who were dragged here, declare it right away." I read Ji-suk's case report. He was the first to arrive at the scene. A person like him who went on patrol in the night, no one reported at all. Chairman Gu took the knife in the tray and let Tan smash it out loud and then continued. "You knew that Ji-suk was going to die, right?" Meanwhile, Jun-mo gathered all the big life dust to the hidden place in Jeongbong. Then he threw them a bag of money and said, "Let's treat today as a trial first. The task this time is very simple. Someone is coming here, so I want you to escort him to me. Whoever succeeds will own that pocket. You can deal with him however you want, but don't kill him because it's mine." Ji-jun drove to the place where he was hiding, then took out the ball stick and went inside. Jun-mo and Lee-suk watched intently through the security cameras. Looking at the skinny Ji-jun, Lee-suk thought that Jun-mo was too black. "Why do you think you would put a mountain of money into this name, which looks like you don't have any strength?" But Jun-mo smiled happily and said, "What is so serious? Have fun because this is just a game." Ji-jun had just opened the door and saw a group of people waiting. He calmly said that those who are afraid that they will regret it later just go home. Causing the big assistant to laugh contemptuously, Ji-jun immediately gave a kick and then took the flowing ball stick and rushed to smash the whole group. Hong Jin immediately ran over and grabbed Ji-jun so that the other of us could rush up. But then Ji-jun slammed his face against the wall and pulled him to bleed. At this time, the dust of the other world began to feel afraid and retreated. Seeing that the situation was not good, Jun bought it and immediately contacted the internal security team and asked them to kill Ji-jun without any more escorts. Ji-jun was dealing with them one by one when he was knocked to the ground by the most Tentacon of the rushing group. He quickly regained his spirit, then stood up to continue fighting. Tentacon snatched the staff from another guy and rushed to attack Ji-jun. But he was pulled back by Ji-jun, so he immediately played a neck-peeling trick to lift the opponent high. Ji-jun slammed the spear deep into the Tentacon's neck with all his might. Thanks to this, he gradually lost his strength and let go of Ji-jun. Seeing that the most Tentacon was still killed, the rest of them also ran away and did not dare to fight anymore. Jun was frightened and turned to ask if he was sure that he could kill Ji-jun. "So you know I can kill you, but you have to increase the price." At the same time, Soo-jun was tortured for a while before he confessed. I recorded the entire call on my phone, so just take it and listen to it. Chairman Gu immediately motioned for his juniors to take the phone and give it to him. Then he pressed the phone to his hand and listened. and immediately turned to look at Su Jun full of panic, because he realized that the voice in the recorded call was that of Geum's son. Meanwhile, Jun continued to go deep inside and executed all the people in the security team that Jun had bought and hired. Then he dragged deeper and met Jun, who bought and printed. Jun raised his eyes upstairs to watch Jun buy it and then went up the stairs. He had just reached the place and turned to say to the print that, "If you think twice and want to change your mind, you can just go home." And Su immediately threw a blow that knocked Jun down the stairs. After that, he hit continuously without recoil, making Jun unable to turn back. The cattle print almost overwhelmingly prevailed. He even squeezed Jun upside down into the sky and slammed it directly into the glass table. At this time, Jun bought and said smugfully, "I'm the one who killed your brother. What can you do for me?" Jun immediately grabbed the fragment from the table and stabbed it in the eye. Because his eyesight was limited, he could no longer see the direction. Jun easily reversed the situation and punched a few punches. Then he rushed over and pushed him to hit his head on the chair near him. Seeing that the animal was still sluggish, Jun continued to punch him in the face until he lost consciousness. Then he turned to look at Junbai, and then slowly walked up the stairs. Jun bought fear and went inside, took out a shotgun and fired, but just loaded the ammunition before he could shoot the next bullet. Jun hit the gun downstairs with a flowing ball stick. Jun continued to hit a few more sticks on his body. Let the killer always go nowhere. Jun bought fear, begged Jun to spare his life, and then said, "There's nothing you can do like that, your brother won't be able to come back to life." Jun was silent and did not answer, but only hit the last stick the head, causing Junmua to fall from upstairs and hit his head directly on the ground and die. Meanwhile, Chairman Gu tried to call the mischievous son, but the other end of the line kept the subscriber unable to contact. At that moment, Jun used Jun's phone to buy a call and said, "Imnam Jun here." Chairman Gu replied in a panic, "You calmly listen to me. Jisuk's quality was not caused by Jun buying." Jun didn't wait for Chairman Gu to explain, but said blankly, "His son was dealt with in accordance with the rules. He's tired of it, so accept the truth." Jun hung up the phone, put down the phone, and turned his back to leave. Chairman Gu was still shocked because he couldn't accept the truth. Jun drove back with a depressed mood in his heart. He remembers the last time he spoke to his brother. Jisuk said, "I was wondering how you felt when you went to see the president on my behalf. But now you probably don't need to ask anymore. As for this jacket, I'll pay it next time because we'll see you again." Jun was immersed in memories when a car from the opposite side with a bumper ran over. He couldn't carry his hand in time, so he was immediately knocked down the bridge. After confirming that Jun's car had fallen into the river, Shiman called his superiors to inform them that he had finished handling Jun. After Jun was hit by a car and fell into the lake, his car was picked up the very next morning. But the rescue team did not find the body, only the wreckage of the car, because he was busy rescuing another rescue case. So the whole team quickly left immediately afterwards. Unbeknownst to him, Jun had washed ashore and was quickly saved. He boom drove and called the doctor to remember that he had prepared an emergency clinic for Jun. Meanwhile, the news that Jun met the rank name immediately after killing Jun bought it reached Chairman Lee's ears. Unless it was decided in time whether to investigate who was the culprit, the chairman called to make an appointment. When Chairman Lee arrived at the old appointment, he saw Chairman Gu standing in awe and looking into the distance. Chairman Lee immediately asked curiously, "Did you let the person eliminate Jun, right?" Probably after seeing his only son killed, he only thought of revenge in his mind. Chairman Gu handed the chairman a piece of paper containing information related to the Zhugun group and replied, "If you knew that such a thing would happen, why would you do it?" The captain's hand scooped up Jun in the Jisuk case for money. He plotted to kill it to lure Jun into killing Mo. Then he finally kills Jun and hands everything over to his prosecutor. Chairman Lee thought that Chairman Gu was delusional about writing a cheap detective story by himself. But Chairman Gu bluntly said that now to put an end to this, one of us must disappear. After that, Chairman Lee went back to discuss with important shareholders in the group. Some people think that they have to take action before Chairman Gu pulls to eliminate all the people in the Zhugun group. People reject that idea because nowadays no one uses blood to solve problems. At the same time, Chairman Gu returned to Bangsan Group to prepare for a shareholder meeting to plan an attack. Everyone was waiting in the meeting room when the prosecution came in and arrested them all. Chairman Gu couldn't carry his hand in time, so he quickly got into the car and fled. The deputy prosecutor was very dissatisfied when he learned that Gum's son was slow to lose a beat and let Chairman Gu disappear. He thought that Gum's son deliberately came to arrest 30 minutes early because there was Chairman Lee behind the rope pulling. The deputy prosecutor also warned that Gum's son would soon be fired for choosing Zhu Gun's side. Gum's son calmly took out the document and said, "You said I had to choose a side and prove myself. So now I will answer right here after handling Chairman Gu. He will come to my ministry. I was ready from day one as a prosecutor." Meanwhile, Chairman Lee went directly to the Exhibition Institute to meet Song Zhou to ask about the situation. "But in the end, I didn't have a choice. Then why did you do that, Song Zhou?" Seeing that he was still pretending to be evil as if he was innocent. So Chairman Lee immediately took out the paper containing the bank statement data and continued. "Before I knew it, the money from my account had flowed out. In the hands of those who do not enter, but in the right hands of Captain Zhu Gun. Not long after, Ji-suk was killed and Captain Zhu Gun was in charge of the case. He quickly covered up to let that case sink. As far as I know, only one person can do this. So now I asked him why he did it, but Zhou replied that the chairman's reasoning has a big flaw, set up a front company, bribing the police and then investigating a case and many other things. Besides me, there is still another person on the prosecutor's side who can do all those tricks. Why doesn't the chairman think that the conspirators belong to the Zhu Gun clan? Or was it because the chairman himself did not want to believe that it was so?" Chairman Lee immediately warned. "If you drag my son in, I'm gonna smash my skull," Song Zhou calmly replied. "Someone told me that the older people get, the more they believe in what they want to believe. Take care of yourself, Chairman, and remember to stay healthy." At the same time, the provincial Zhu Gun easily pulled out the seawater transfer chain in his hand, then put on his coat and left the hospital room. When the doctor came back to check, he could no longer see him anywhere, so he could only sigh helplessly. Zhu Gun meets at a park to get his brother's belongings and car keys. Hibung has changed the license plate, so he doesn't have to worry about being traced. Zhu Gun didn't say anything or thank you, but just took the things and turned his back to leave. Song Gun was sitting and eating while talking to the junior. How happy is the old male chairman of the taste. It is because of his vengeance that we are so miserable. If it wasn't for Chairman Lee's noble son, who made up this matter to make merits, it is definitely also because the chairman divorced to do so and think a lot about what to do. Because the one who survives to the end is the strongest. Just look at the idiot Zhu Gun to understand. Just live in silence, you can't bear it, you have to take revenge, so now your life is gone. As they spoke, the two of them laughed gloatingly, not knowing that Zhu Gun was standing behind them. As soon as he hears Zhu Gun's request to talk to Song Gun privately, then the junior got up and left on his own. Song Gun interrupted and said what kind of standing he was, but he made a noise to let people know. Zhu Gun sat down in his chair and said, "Who killed me, find out quickly because I didn't ask. And I'm giving you a chance to live. What about the bodies of Bunho and Chunsuk?" So Song Gun led Zhu Gun to the monk's house and said, "I calculated to increase but found that it was not true. So I cleaned up and organized a decent funeral. It doesn't matter who pays for it, just losing the whole set of money. These two idiots have to live for someone who doesn't know what to do. It should have been okay to live like me at the end." Zhu Gun didn't look at it silently for a while and then turned his back and left. Meanwhile, Ji-Yum's son had just arrived when she saw her father in her room with her hand on her hand. Chairman Lee calmly put down his hand to listen and then turned to ask, "Do you have anything you want to tell me? Did you meet Songzo recently and hear what that guy said? Did he say he would give me a place in this world? Did he promise to let me sit in my father's place?" Seeing that Ji-Yum's son began to be confused and tried to defend, then Chairman Lee immediately grabbed the collar of the warning shirt. Ji-Yum's son immediately replied, "Dad always said that there was no place for me in the company. I think so and I understand. So to be honest, I don't understand what my father is saying anymore. I just do my duty. Nothing will change for you when you are still sitting here, right?" Chairman Lee only asked his son to rest and then leave without saying anything more. Waiting for his father to leave, Ji-Yum's son picked up his hand and heard the music on the other side of the office. The next day, Chairman Lee presided over the council meeting and resolutely declared, "Since the death of the chairman, I have only been a person who sits still and lets others decide. So much that I have survived until now without letting my hands get dirty. I was so wrong to think like that. My hand was already very wet, but I just couldn't see it. Well, after all, it's already dipped in, and then I'm willing to dip it for the last time. Soon after, the Dugun's troops came to attack the place where Chairman Gu was hiding. Director Hong immediately directed the other direction for Chairman Gu and his subordinates to leave, and he will go the other way to find aid. But who would have thought that Director Hong would side with Dugun? So he showed the president the way that the Dugun's troops were encircling. Surrounded by the side, the chairman had to personally deal with the Dugun's people. Even though he was stabbed repeatedly, he was still very stubborn and asked the others to jump, and then your father would take it all. Chairman Gus Jr. was stabbed to the point that he couldn't stand up anymore, so he had to give in. And the director went into the escape route, so there were no people. He was even ignored by the Dugun's people and did not attack, so he saved his life. Waiting until the chairman was exhausted, then Chairman Lee personally entered. Then ordered the rest of the juniors to go out. Before taking action, Chairman Lee apologized, but Chairman Gu said, "There is no need to apologize for the fate of people like us." The chairman rushed to attack, but then Chairman Lee stabbed him in the neck with a pipe and said, "I'm willing to do anything for my child just like him. So I hope you will understand." The chairman tried to say the last words. She had to bear it because sooner or later it would be his turn. After speaking, he took his last breath and fell under the pile pit on the spot. After the completion of the work, Director Hong called the Red Line to report that the Chairman Gu had died. Xuedu was satisfied and replied, "Now Bongsan will be run by you." After that, he hung up, and he crossed out the name of the president of the fried taste on the chart. Then look at the names of the next targets with a satisfied smile. It turned out that earlier, Zhongzhou had called Director Hong to discuss the story of creating a rebellion against Chairman Gu. Director Hong was curious why Zhongzhou chose him. While he is not the only director in the Bongsan group, Zhongzhou immediately asked him who was the most suitable person to take over the Zhugun after Chairman Lee. Director Hong, after eliminating everything, thinks that the manager is the most suitable person. Zhongzhou nodded in agreement, then poured coffee to invite Director Hong and said, "That's also why I chose the director to sit in Bongsan's chair." As soon as he finished speaking, Manager Choi opened the door and walked in to greet him, and Zhongzhou immediately spoke up. "He's not on Director Hong's list, but the Zhugun group already has a legal heir, he's here." As soon as he finished speaking, Jiam's son opened the door and walked in, and Zhongzhou immediately stretched out his hand and said. Then he was ready to launch after the javelin that had been pierced. Jiam smiled triumphantly and grabbed the other person's hand. Zhongzhou also couldn't hold back his joy and held Jiam's son's hand tightly. Meanwhile, Shen Quan and Jian arrive at the scene to deal with the mess left by Chairman Lee. Shen Quan was quite surprised because Chairman Lee had never acted like this, so Jian immediately said that he became more determined because he wanted to protect something. Even if he had to kill Chairman Gu, Jian immediately turned his back and left. At the same time, Chairman Lee receives a call from Jian, and Zhongzhou is in prison to meet with the Han, the loyal subordinate of the European president in the past. After the battle with Jian, he is still alive and has lost only one arm. The next day, Jian went to the meeting with Chairman Lee and went straight to the point. "The president is the one who ordered my killing, right?" Chairman Lee immediately replied. "There was another person he didn't know. If you are the one who built the chessboard, then he is the one who controls the chess, and kept it running since he left. We used to call him Zhongzhou, and the president of Europe was able to entice him because of his relationship with the police. He gave us information about the internal police investigation and helped cover up our illegal operations." Initially, Zhongzhou had not become very greedy. Even after the president was stunned, he still didn't give up on this world. He stayed with me and Chairman Gu and earned a set of money. Even more than the European president's time, but for him that was never enough. He held our weakness and sat behind the chicken wing in control of everything. So that's how Chairman Gu and I have maintained the peace until now. But now I realize whether it's the present or the past. Then he was not the one who started the incident, but Zhongzhou. I still doubt in my heart because 11 years ago, Zizhou Guang was too young. In order to grasp the information of the European president's son, Chairman Lee played the recording of the conversation between Zhongzhou and Zizhou 11 years ago to Zizhou. It turned out that Zhongzhou had told Zizhou that the son of the European president was targeting Zizhou. Therefore, Zizhou is ready to kill the son of the European president to protect his brother. After turning on the recording, Chairman Lee continued to speak. "If you don't want to believe me, it's fine, But you should know that this time Zongzhou is the one who pulls the strings. It must have made Zizhou pile up and drag him into this case just like 11 years ago. I was really gonna hand over the group to Zizhou, but now it's gone. And I can't trust anyone in the group, so I want to hand it over to you. Zizhou replied that, whether it was then or now, my decision is the same. Where do I have to go to find that Zongzhou name? Chairman Li immediately told me to take him out. Zizhou finally said goodbye and then turned his back to leave, without knowing that Manager Choi was standing on the bridge observing the two from a distance, and take the phone to tell someone. At the same time, Chairman Li called Zongzhou to make an appointment for him to meet privately. Zongzhou had just stepped out of the parking lot when he felt someone following him, so he immediately turned around and looked with a face full of panic. Earlier, Zongzhou had made an appointment to discuss the ouster of Chairman Li from the chair of the Zhugun Group. Now that I've settled the matter of Bongsan, Chairman Li has also made a big decision. So now it's your turn to make a decision. You are not a dreamer, so you have to lose that opportunity. Do you want to hang around forever on the edge of the hovering limbo like now? Or do you want to be the boss of that vast square? That evening, Zongzhou was suddenly attacked by Zizhou. Just as he was about to go to meet his grandparents, Taihan appeared to rescue a fan. When Zizhou saw the senior he respected, he was very surprised. It was even more confusing to see his prosthetic arm. As for Zongzhou, he took that opportunity to drive away first. Taihan rushed to attack Zizhou but stopped halfway because he heard the police. He immediately turned to say see you later. Then turning his back to leave, Zongzhou looked at the bruise left on Ziz's neck and laughed sarcastically. Then he took his phone and looked at Chairman Li's message and cursed silently in his mouth. How dare you do that to me, you old man? At the same time, Zizhou called Sungwoon to ask him to find Zongzhou's car for him. Although Zizhou had said that this would be the last time to ask for help, Sungwoon still sighed helplessly and said, "Do you know why a bastard like me survived for so long? Because I have an intuition to choose which ones to do and which ones to ignore. This is something I don't like, so it's a long time before I do it. You just told me that guy is a policeman, what's the matter? Touching the police is eating bran, not playing." Zizhou just calmly replied, "So, is it okay to touch Zizhou?" Meanwhile, Zongzhou drove back to the police station and went to the office. I was sitting thinking when Chairman Li called, so he picked up the phone and said, "Thanks to the chairman, I was able to see the legendary Zizhou. I didn't expect the chairman to show dirty games behind his back like this. Maybe we should make an appointment to meet soon." Finishing his words, Zongzhou immediately hung up without waiting for Chairman Li to say anything more. The next day, Chairman Li put on a formal shirt to go to the board meeting. As soon as he walked out the door, he heard the noble son speak. "I heard that you are holding a board meeting, and I will go to the Zhugun Group on your behalf. I don't know where to start for daddy? Or was it from the first time I went to see Zongzhou and discussed changing the chess game together? Or is it the first time that you are determined to take your place?" Chairman Li angrily hit the mischievous son and said, "Are you crazy? Do you know how crazy Zongzhou is? Do you know that sitting in this position is a nightmare every day? Everything I do is just for you, because I don't want you to live like me, you man." Ziam replied with a smile, "That's my father's wish, not my son's. I always want to be like you. I always wanted my father's position and never gave it up. But my father kept giving up that position to someone else like that." Finishing his words, Ziam's son took out the application for a search warrant and showed it to his father. Chairman Li angrily snatched the paper and threw it at the unfilial son and said, "Do you think that just these papers can stop me? Do you think that the advisor and the vice president will listen to you?" Ziam's son immediately shouted in response, "If you don't listen, you will have to listen. Dad, just go online and watch." At this time, Manager Choi asked Ziam's son to leave quickly because he was about to be late. Seeing Chairman Li turn to look at him in surprise, Manager Choi could only bow his head and say sorry, and then quickly left with Ziam's son. At the same time, Zhongzhou called the Han and said, "You must be tired of waiting, right? Are you ready to pay off your debt with Jiyun? Just take my car and drive away, because Jiyun will come automatically." Just as Zhongzhou said, the people of the graveyard quickly followed Zongzhou's car. Then take a picture and send it to the system of the room. After receiving the news, the army immediately called Jiyun and said that he had sent the address. He helplessly asked Jiyun how far he planned to do this, so Jiyun immediately pressed him. "I have to end it all by myself." Meanwhile, everyone on the board was surprised to see Ziam's son enter the meeting room. The vice president immediately stood up and spoke in opposition. It seems that he is planning to overthrow him by enticing manager Choi to his side. But really what he did was already in favor of the work. While the young master was still sitting idly flipping through the pages of the book, then we went to ask for a family with the chairman countless times. No one here considers the young master to be in the same boat. Zium's son just replied calmly, "If you feel unacceptable, please come back." The vice president immediately asked the others on the board to leave. But when he walked out first, he was dealt with by Zium's son's people. Everyone inside heard the screams, so they stopped and didn't dare to go anymore. Zium's son continued to speak. "I'm not like my father didn't want his hands with blood. But for me, it didn't matter. I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty if it's necessary." At the same time, Zium went to the address that Sung Jun had sent earlier to look for the wanderer. But the person who came to pick him up was Taeyeon's senior. Taeyeon just came out and questioned Zium, "Why didn't you kill me 11 years ago?" It was too humiliating. As soon as he spoke, Taeyeon immediately rushed to attack Zium. It was only a few lines of dancing that his strength overwhelmed Zium. Taeyeon threw the knife on the ground to Zium and took out another one from his pocket and said, "Hurry up and solve this matter once and for all." Just like that, the two rushed in with knives to poke each other. But Taeyeon continued to dominate. And it was easy to make the knife in Zium's hand fall off. He kicked the knife and asked Zium to pick it up, and then the two continued to fight. But this time Zium succeeded in injuring Taeyeon. He thrust the knife into Taeyeon's prosthetic arm to restrain him. But Taeyeon snatched out the prosthesis arm and didn't need it anymore and continued to attack. He looked at Taeyeon tiredly and advised Taeyeon to stop fighting again. Zium went forward to get the knife, but Taeyeon stuck his neck and said, "You should have killed him then." Zium had no choice but to pick up the knife on the ground. Then he turned to stab Taeyeon in the stomach. Seeing that Zium didn't plan to do it to the end, Taeyeon immediately held Zium's hand tightly and asked, "Are you going to humiliate me to the end?" Helping Taeyeon hold Zium's hand tightly, stabbed it deeper and then pulled out the knife. Watching Taeyeon slowly drop his gun, Zium couldn't help but be heartbroken. Taeyeon used the last bit of energy to take out the phone in his pocket, dial the number of Zhongzhou and say no. "Jiun, if this world wants to end, it must all be good. Hurry up and find that bastard." Withdrawing Taeyeon's words, he also took his last breath. Meanwhile, Chairman Lee opened the safe in his office and took out the pistol. Then he sat patiently and waited for Zhongzhou to come to find him. As expected, he visited just a moment later, and when they met, Zhongzhou said, "This must be the last goodbye, right? Does the president regret sitting in this position?" The chairman had many opportunities but never made a living. Maybe it's because the chairman doesn't want to lose everything he has. Zhongzhou took out the knife and continued to speak. "Actually, in my plan, there is no killing the chairman. But if I let the chairman live, I am afraid that I will be in danger. Don't worry about the chairman's son because he'll take care of him." Chairman Lee angrily pulled out his gun and replied, "Mei made a big mistake by dragging Jiun's son into this." Overwhelmed in terms of weapons, Zhongzhou gently put the knife on the table. But as soon as Chairman Lee lost his guard, he rushed over and strangled him. Chairman Lee tried to point the gun at Zhongzhou but missed the shot. Losing his gun, Chairman Lee took the knife from the table to attack Zhongzhou. Just as 1,000 pounds were hanging by the hair, Zhongzhou reached for the gun and shot Chairman Lee. He pushed Chairman Lee aside and sat up, pulled the fake man into his chair and said, "It should have been okay to just close your eyes and ignore it because your noble son caused trouble. Goodbye, and don't worry too much about your son." After a while, Jiun drove to Chairman Lee's house and went inside the office. He called out to Chairman Lee, but he did not answer. As soon as Jiun realized that Chairman Lee had been killed, the police surrounded him. "Don't hold back, Jiun," and put the gun in his hand. The police checked to see if Chairman Lee was still breathing and spoke. He was arrested for the murder of Chairman Lee, and every word he said would be used against him in court. At this time, Zhongzhou calmly walked in and sat opposite Jiun and said, "We met again too soon. It felt so unfair, didn't it?" Jiun didn't answer silently, but just looked at Chairman Lee. Then he turned to look at Zhongzhou with hateful eyes. Jiun's son returned home as soon as he heard that his father had been assassinated. After confirming that it was his father's body, Jiun's son nodded to let the ambulance carry him away. Then he went into his room to listen to the recording from the eavesdropping device. And knowing that the real culprit who killed his father was Zhongzhou, not Jiun. At the same time, Zhongzhou chatted with Jiyun in the interrogation room. Our plan wouldn't have worked without you, Jiyun. Both 11 years ago and now, even if we don't plot, your brother will still pile up. Because once Chairman Li has chosen him as his successor, then he only has two options, which is to load or sit on that gold. Didn't you see him curiously asking who else besides me? Jiyun was silent and did not answer, but only looked at Zhongzhou with cold eyes. After a while, the Capitol Police brought the cricket and drove Jiyun away. They had just driven into the tunnel, and the outsiders immediately put up a sign prohibiting them from entering because they were under construction. Jiyun realized the problem, so he just said calmly, "You were ordered to kill me here, right?" Withdrawing his words, Jiyun immediately attacked the people in the car one by one, even though their hands were cuffed. The guy sitting next to the driver's seat with a gun turned around and was about to shoot, but was restrained by Jiyun. He broke the hand of the gun holder in reverse, causing the gun to explode in the head of the driver of the car. The car immediately lost control and overturned to the side. Jiyun was still alive and tried to get out of the car. The man with the gun was a big blessing, so he was still alive. He held a gun and pointed it at Jiyun and was about to shoot, but he was hit by a truck that ran over to him. Jiyun was fishing and didn't understand what was going on when Sungwoon got out of the car. Jiyun immediately asked, "How did you know how you came here?" So Sungwoon replied that, "Zhongzhou told me to clean up this place and promised to share something after I finished dealing with it." Meanwhile, Zhongzhou's juniors came to report that Sungwoon had finished dealing with Jiyun, and it is erected like a case of drought during the escort. After listening to it, Zhongzhou smiled with peace of mind because the burden had been solved. Unbeknownst to him, Sungwoon covered up and saved Xian's life. He gave Jiyun Zhongzhao's information and said, "Zhongzhao's position is the head of the planning and budget department. That part is the hidden gem in the police station. The strange thing is that usually a few years will be transferred or promoted. But this guy has been sitting in one place for 11 years. He didn't come from the National Police University. It was difficult to go higher again, so he must have deliberately clung to that position." Jiyun immediately replied, "So he had been covering for Zhugun and Bongsan all this time. And why did you decide to help me?" Sungwoon handed Jiyun the phone containing Chairman Li's SIM card and pipe, and said, "I will go abroad for a while to avoid being contagious again. You understand what I mean, but you shouldn't hurry up." At the same time, Jiyun Song let the manager play to listen to the recording from the eavesdropping device. When Chairman Li was assassinated, the manager decided to let the person handle Zhongzhou. Then Jiyun stopped and said, "It is not possible because Zhongzhou hid confidential documents about the Zhugun group. So we have to get that file first." Jiyun Song issued a search warrant and confiscated Zhongzhao's office. Let the manager play the next day. The prosecutor's person pulled to the Capitol Police office and confiscated all of Zhongzhao's belongings and important data. Shocked, his subordinates immediately called Zhongzhou to report the news and advise him not to come to work at this time. Zhongzhou immediately called Jiyun Song and said, "Are you going to stab me in the back? I don't know why you're doing that, but you have to quit right away." Jiyun Song calmly replied, "You thought I didn't know that my father wasn't killed by Jiyun. I needed more time, but he didn't wait." Zhongzhou began to panic and stopped the car on the side of the road and said, "There must be some misunderstanding here. Or let's meet and talk." Jiyun Song replied, "This is similar to your style. He creates misunderstandings that lead to conflict. Then make people confront each other. Talking is sure to go next time." But if he still had the next time he spoke, Jiyun would immediately lose his voice. Zhongzhou angrily called Simon but couldn't get in touch. He immediately left a voicemail warning Simon to quickly answer the phone. "If you don't want to return to the wanted list of Interpol International Police." Without knowing it, Simon was sitting in the car and let Jiyun listen to the voicemail again. Simon suggested that Jiyun do not go around what he wants. Jiyun Song immediately said, "Kaneyama is your real name, right? He is an assassin from Simon Province, a Korean Japanese named Kim Julok. He was wanted by the international police, but thanks to Zhongzhao's clearing of records, he had to cooperate with him. It's called cooperation for whom, but in fact, you're just being taken advantage of. I will make sure you live in Korea under the name Kim Julok, not Kaneyama or Simon. In return, I need you to kill a few people to help me." Meanwhile, Jiyun Song obtained the position of the junior who worked for Zhongzhou through Sungal. He sat in the car looking at the commemorative photo while waiting for the junior to enter the Sungal to get his things. Waiting for the guy to take out his things, he immediately drove the car to follow him. That night, Ji Song sat and examined each important document confiscated from Zhang Hao's office. As soon as he opened the bag, he immediately remembered the memory of 8 months ago. It was the first time Ji Song had come to see Zhongzhou at the exhibition. He gave Zhongzhou a plan for internal investigation of Zhang Hao's department and then said, "The inspector desk is going to investigate you and I can bring the case down." Zhongzhou replied that he was also really brave, so what did he want? Ji Song calmly said, "I want a position. I want to merge Zhugun and Bangsan and sit on top." As soon as Zhongzhou tore up the plan and agreed to board the Jiun boat, he continued to speak. "I already have my own plan. We will take advantage of Junmu to eliminate the chief executive Jishu." Zhongzhou thinks that plan is a bit risky because it will be easy to lure Ji Song out. Ji Song continued to say that my father often said that there were many things he wanted so much that he couldn't have. But I'm different because I'm going to get everything I want. The problem was that he never asked me what I really wanted. He'll say it again that I want both Zhugun and Bangsan. Ji said goodbye, but at the end of the day he said goodbye and then turned away and left. Zhongzhou waited for Ji Song to leave, and then took out the tape recorder to listen to what Ji Song said earlier. Then he went to the golf room to open the locker, the place where all the secrets of the big men in the gypsy world are stored inside the suitcase. And Ji Song is no exception. He put the USB with Ji Song's name in his suitcase and said, "Hopefully we'll be a good team, Mr. Prosecutor." Ji Song just opened the bag and saw his father's gun left behind. Then the manager walked away and announced that it was time for the funeral. He immediately pulled the bag and put it away, and said, "It's time to see off my father." The monastic ceremony was held in a study atmosphere in the church. At the same time, Sung Quan and his juniors drove to the harbor to get on a boat and escape. The junior wondered why Sung Jun did not change to a foreign stage name for anyone. Then he was immediately cursed and Sung Jun lied about fleeing abroad, but in fact he just hid temporarily. Wait to see who survives to the end, and then show his face. After waiting too long, the boat still hasn't arrived, so the army immediately asked the juniors to check. He went out and asked the fishermen nearby, but no one knew anything. So I had to use the phone to call the captain to try. While waiting for the junior to call, Sung Quan opened the suitcase containing the money to check for peace of mind. Then he opened his phone and browsed the old Axis with Ji Jun and his former teammates. It turns out that when he first started his career, Ji Jun used to be a junior who Sung Jun loved very much. I was sitting reminiscing about the beautiful memories of the old days when someone knocked on the car window. Sung Jun had just opened the door and was attacked by that brat holding a spear. Another man also rushed from the driver's door and caused the troops to be surrounded on both sides. Sung Quan took the knife hidden at his foot and stabbed the other man repeatedly and then tried to get out of the car. The tough bastard followed him into the area and slashed a few more shots at him. Sung Jun woke up and sat up to fight back. Then he stabbed him repeatedly with a knife, making the boy no longer able to swing the door. Then he took the suitcase in the car and satisfied the other boy's face. Sung Jun would not load his head. "Remember to report it to the person who ordered you like that." As he walked, Sung Quan called the name of his junior to help him find something to cover the wound. But as soon as he finished speaking, he was stabbed in the stomach by the same junior he trusted. "I will tell them that they are military personnel like this." Sung Quan only had time to let go of a claw and then spread out and no longer breathed. His hand still held the suitcase tightly and refused to let go. The junior tried to put the suitcase back, then called Manager Choi to tell him that he had finished handling the troops. As soon as he received the news, Manager Choi immediately reported the news to the young master. Jiam nodded in satisfaction and said, "Good, so it's almost done." Meanwhile, the junior of the dragon has just brought the goods to the hiding place when he encounters Jijuan. So both of them were quickly treated mercilessly by Jijuan. Jijuan went deeper to find the place where Ro was hiding. But as soon as he turned to the back, he was suddenly attacked by a Simon. He overwhelmed Jijuan's power with just a small knife in his hand. Simon also thinks that Jijuan is too unlucky because he was going to deal with him first, but who would have expected to meet Jijuan? The two fight for a while until Jijuan is kicked out of the large courtyard behind the building. Simon calmly walked out, raised his knife and said, "You're nothing special like your brother." Jijuan realizes that this same assassin is the one who killed his brother. As soon as he retracted his words, Simon immediately rushed to attack continuously, making Jijuan unable to turn back. He thrusts the knife backwards but is immediately thrust into the wall by Jijuan. Simon quickly reversed the situation and kicked Jijuan repeatedly. Seeing that Jijun was starting to ignore his tired head, he swung his knife and tried to stab him in the neck. But Jijun quickly blocked the attack with his hand. Then he punched the assassin in the face several times in a row. Next, Jijun pulled out the knife in his hand and stabbed Simon's neck. It's the same as how he went out to kill the will. When he was done, he didn't forget to kick another one in the face to get rid of it, then turned his back and left. At the same time, Jiumsun talks to the deputy prosecutor and important shareholders of the Zhugun Group. I will build a new square, unlike my father's gangster days. I will make the square completely legal so that no one will dare to touch me anymore. Perhaps I am helpless as Chairman Li's son, but as a prosecutor Li Jiumsun I can do a lot of things. After listening, the deputy prosecutor immediately stretched out his hand to shake hands with the shareholders of the Zhugun Group. Zhongzhou was sitting in the shelter room, terrified when he saw Jijun on the security camera. He immediately picked up his gun and went outside to greet Jijun. As soon as he saw the enemy entering, he fired a shot at Jijun's arm and said, "You told me that you know who the real mastermind is? Are you joking or do you really know that?" Jijun immediately threw the USB sticks he had taken from Zongzhao's Jr. to the ground. Zhongzhou then continued, "Do you know what is contained in this USB? It was the recording of Jiumsun admitting by himself. If you want to spark a war between the two-party states to seize power, all the evidence is in it. Or do you get rid of Jiumsun and become the new head of the square? Then I will help support you with all my might?" Jijun calmly replied, "You shouldn't make a suggestion, but you should beg for forgiveness." Seeing that he could not transmit Jijun with words, Zhongzhou pulled out a gun and shot him directly in the shoulder. Jijun quickly grabbed the pile of documents nearby and threw them up, distracting Zongzhao's vision. Then rushing over for him to fall into the glass door, Zhongzhou played with the knife hidden under the sofa to counterattack. But before he could make a move, Jijun stopped him and stabbed him back, seeing Zhongzhou begging for his life. Jijun sent away a few of his fingers by the way. Zhongzhou painfully tried to reach for the gun, but was cut off by Jijun near his leg. Then he stabbed the knife directly into Zongzhao's neck, causing him to collapse on the spot. Moments later, Jijun appears at the church where Chairman Li's funeral is taking place. The family manager stopped him, but Jiumsun signaled for him to pass, and Jijun walked over quietly. Kui Sung respectfully in front of the chairman's coffin and then stood up. Jiumsun said, Sanjasiman had already failed, and Zhongzhou was also dealt with by him. It's good because it's okay for that guy to die. Jijun asks why Jiumsun pushed things to this extent. Jiumsun replied, "So why did my father refuse when he wanted to hand over the Zhugun to you? Everyone in the square coveted that position. It was close in front of his eyes, but far away enough to drive people crazy. But your brothers and sisters saw it as nothing, so they ate something and left. Because maybe this is the last hot meal when you're free," Jijun said tiredly. "Is that all? Then this is also his last meal. Because now he is the only one who has not been dealt with. Tomorrow is a memorial ceremony, so just live until then and send it off completely." After speaking, Jijun placed the pipe on the coffin of the chairman of the cup and turned his back to leave the church. Then he stopped by the funeral home to visit his younger brother. Jijun left a photo with his former teammates in Jisik's compartment. Before leaving, he apologized for leaving his brother waiting so long and promised that the two would see each other again soon. Jijun goes to Heban to give him the USB with Jiam's name on it and says, "Just keep it and I'll call you back later, you should stop here too." Since both Chunsuk and Bunho are already piled up, there must be survivors to go to the end. The next day, Jiam's son finishes putting his father's coffin in the furnace and goes up to see Sangsuk. Let him see the foreign account he used to deposit the money for corruption. Sangsuk immediately asks the deputy prosecutor to go outside and sit down and talk to Jiam's son. After going through the merger document that Jiam's son drafted, Sangsuk immediately said, "Then I just need to ignore this merger, right? If so, what benefits will I get from this?" Jiam replied casually, "The boss will be able to sit in the current chair a little longer." Hearing this, Sangsuk could only laugh and then nodded in agreement to the offer. The conclusion of the merger of Zhugun and Bangsan quickly took place. Sangsuk meets with the chief prosecutor to discuss the merger between the two corporations. Manager Choi also secretly organized a launch event for the young master at the Dexo Hotel. As for Hebam, he was at the bar with a USB plug that Jijun gave him to listen to the recording. That evening, a ceremony celebrating the merger of Zhugun and Bangsan was held. Jaeum-sun went on stage and gave a few words in front of the shareholders. As you know, we're here to celebrate the unification of Jugun and Bangsan. As of today, I will be appointed as the new CEO of Jugun, and am still a prosecutor at the Seoul Central District Prosecutor's Office. I plan to build a new system and try a different approach. We're going to keep all the members and just change the system a little. I will ensure that the unlawful benefits you enjoy are no longer considered illegal. The square I envisioned was a place where the distinction between light and darkness would be blurred. No one will be able to criticize us in the new square I created. The chief prosecutor smiled and applauded with satisfaction, so everyone applauded in unison in response. While Jaeum-sun was speaking, Heebam made an appointment to meet the lawyer in the palace room. Then used the article she wrote to expose the truth about Jaeum-sun and send an email to the station. After finishing his speech, Jaeum-sun sat down at the table with the chief prosecutor. While happily talking about the future, the deputy prosecutor came to show them the articles about Jaeum-sun that were circulating online. So everyone got up and walked home without saying a word. Jaeum opened her phone and watched the news about her on TV. They even have footage of him plotting to take advantage of the murder to merge the two corporations together. Manager Choi looked helplessly and couldn't say a word. The deputy prosecutor came and said it looked like things were already tense. He angrily announced about this and that new system. It turned out that it was for us to watch this interesting drama. He still refused to understand the problem. He was sure to spend it and then enter this case, so it ended right here. If you're going to drag us all into the pit, forget it. This game is over and I don't understand the bastard. Jumsun got mad and took a nearby ice bucket and struck the deputy prosecutor on the head. Then he kicked a few more to get angry. It wasn't until the manager went to the compartment that he calmed down. Jesus still stubbornly wanted to call everyone back to continue the service. So Manager Choi couldn't help but say it anymore. Let's go straight to this madness. All of our employees came to this country because they believed in you. If you spoil things again, I swear I won't spare you. Now he quickly walked by the stairs. Jumsun obediently obeyed and quickly departed. As for Manager Choi, he was tired and could only sit down in his chair to calm down. It didn't take long for Jerome to reach the convention. A bodyguard risked his life to rush in, so he was stabbed first. The others were just about to rush in when Manager Choi appeared to stop them. He went to the end of the head to greet Jaron and asked the bodyguards to leave. Then the manager said softly to Jaron he couldn't stop here. We are fellow disciples, so I beg you to stop. Looking at that expression, he probably didn't want to stop. Then let's go quickly. They'll show you the way. Jerome was loading bullets into his gun and waiting for Jerome inside the office. Manager Choi said that he was leading the way, but in fact, he was stabbing Jaron in the back with a knife. So Jaron had no choice but to counterattack and kill his fellow disciple with his own hands. Manager Choi just smiled with satisfaction and said, "It's okay. Go finish what you have to do." Jaron nodded and replied, "We will meet again soon." He went into the elevator and then got in the car to go to Chairman Lee's house. Jerome went straight into the office and sat down in a chair and asked him how it felt to sit in that chair. "Everything you've done up to now is just to climb up there and sit." Jim gently put down the gun and replied, "I didn't know it well. I didn't feel as special as I imagined. I did enough just to sit in this chair. If I had known it was so tasteless, I wouldn't have done anything." Jameson had a different point of view. "I was different from you because I like to fight. It feels good to throw an accurate shot. The best thing is after I win. The way people look at me, maybe my father has always received such eyes all his life, eyes of respect and admiration. I was really jealous of that feeling." Jerome thinks that it is not admiration or respect at all. It's simply fear and the burden that comes with it, and Chairman Lee doesn't want his son to carry that burden. Not to mention his father, he was curious as to why Jerome had gone so far. Whereas in the past, the tail ran away and hid like a mouse that had lost its tail. Jaron took the knife from his pocket and said, "For I am the cause of it all. This world is already like that. Once you enter, only the substance is the only way out." Jameson immediately pulled out a gun and shot Jaron as a warning, but Jaron still bent down and picked up the knife on the ground. Jameson got up and pointed his gun at Jaron and said, "Maybe my father was right. You guys live in nightmares every day. This shirt doesn't even fit me at all anyway. Thank you for listening to me." Drawing the words of Jesus to the barrel of the gun and pointing at himself with the intention of finishing himself, But Jerome was quicker and swung the knife so hard that his wrist was almost severed. You can't be loaded so easily. Jericho thrust the knife into Jeremson's neck decisively, and then drew it and said, "Go to hell and ask for forgiveness." Then Jerome turned his back and left, leaving Jerome in his pants facing the approaching substance. Then Jeron returned to the campsite and sat quietly in front of the burning fire. In a daze from the loss of blood, he saw Jesus sitting next to him and said, "I always wonder who would be interested in this campsite, but it turns out that it's a good spread, brother. Maybe you should come back here to work with me and leave everything behind." Jeron replied with a smile, "You see, leave it all and come back here to work with you. We will run the campsite together." Just like that, both brothers looked at each other and laughed happily. Jeron's smile gradually melted into his last hurried breaths because of the wounds caused by them. He closed his eyes and walked away under the white snow, quietly closing a human life burdened with sin, and accomplish his ultimate mission, wiping out the entire gypsy world, put an end to all the bloody whirlwinds that Jeron was a part of.